All right, good. Okay, so we're on the Speak Your Truth with Mark Ross podcast. I am welcomed here tonight by Miss Sharon Rolph. Sharon Rolph. She is a uh, life coach, author, and a podcaster. Welcome to the show, Sharon.
Thank you for having me, Mark. It's great to be here.
Thank you so much. Uh, I'm going to start off and just get right down to it, Sharon. Uh,
Sure.
we met on this platform called Matchmaker, and in your bio it says that you retired from working from Boeing in
Yes.
2016,
Uh-huh.
and after that you began a journey of coaching newly single retirees.
Yeah, yeah.
Talk about that. Talk about that.
Well, actually, that's a niche that I've kind of come up with in the last 6 months, but that's basically describing me. I've never married, never had kids. I'm more than newly retired because it's been about 7, 8 years now. But they say often the best audience for coaching is somebody like me and what I've gone through.
Mm-hmm.
And in regards to mental health, I felt invisible my whole career. Way down deep in my gut, I felt like, you know, no, nobody paid much attention to me. And, there weren't any kids around to tell me what a wonderful job I'm doing or husband or that. I was all by myself. And yet there are a lot of people in life that feel invisible also.
Mm.
Now, how much that relates to mental health, I'm not sure, but especially in retirement, as we're losing colleagues and parents and losing people that naturally die, get sick, and all that,
Right.
empty nesters, there's a lot of people that can feel invisible. And I read last year our Surgeon General's book, Together is called. And he said in there that one of the forms of loneliness is feeling invisible. I was shocked because I kind of prided myself on being independent, I guess, and what
Mm.
would be another term for that? I liked my own company. I didn't feel like I struggled with loneliness. I felt like I was chucking right along pretty good. But
Right.
he's from India, and yet his parents moved here when he was like 2, 3 years old. But there was still, from a young child, all this what do you call it? Diversity issues that happened for him, and even as he became a doctor himself, but his folks had to learn the different culture being here initially, and um, there, and he kind of made it um, somewhat typical that we all at times go through periods of feeling invisible. So I think to me that might be the reason a lot of young people are committing suicide, because they don't feel seen and heard.
Mm.
What
Mm.
has been your experience of people having mental issues because they're not seen and heard?
That is a good question, Sharon. I can say for myself though, uh, I never had a problem being by myself.
Right.
I'm a loner. I'm a loner by birthright. I enjoy being alone sometimes, and then there's times I hang around with some people here and there, but I can do I can have just as much fun by myself
Right. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
in in relation to being around other people. But in regards of my mental health, the struggle that I had was not being able to properly express how I was feeling when I was feeling low, when I was feeling like I wanted to do something stupid. I didn't have the courage to speak out then. I do now. You know, I had to come out of that shell and it was a long process.
Mhm.
But in terms of feeling invisible, I never I never thought that I was invisible from that perspective. I think I think for me, now that I'm thinking about your question, I it was more of a self-imposed exile.
Me too.
It was more self-imposed than uh the world shunning itself from me. I turned from the world. I went into my own shell and I was cool with that. But it took me it took me through from I guess speaking with some people, learning from counselors that I still see that what I did, imposing that self exile, was not a good move. I thought I was doing something good because I didn't want to impose all of my stuff onto everybody else. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to just close the door. I'm going to stay in my own little circle and deal with me. That's how I look at it, Sharon.
So I've been following somewhat on LinkedIn a guy that's right here in my neighborhood. I used to see him running around the neighborhood, but not so much anymore because I think he's gotten more busy. But he's a black fellow too. He talks on mental health and especially men. And he had been suicidal, I think he said, for about 10 years. And he I think he used to weigh like 300 or 350 pounds. And he's probably still carrying a little bit of extra pounds, but there is a glow and a vibrancy about him. And now he's becoming a spokesman for is it Humana or Prevera? Prevera has a headquarters near here, but there's 2 or 3 months of the year that he gives daily encouragement about what we think about ourselves and what we think is protecting ourselves, or we gotta be manly. What was the term he was using the last couple of days? It's like you're not putting your stuff out on other people, kind of along that line. But he has so transformed his life and now become an expert and influencer on mental health for everybody, actually. And I'm proud of him because he's doing a good job of expressing himself. But my exile, I'm kind of interested in that word, but I wanted to be invisible because of the abuse that was surrounding me at home.
Okay.
And,
Okay.
and I said, well, if I double down, don't rock the boat, get good grades, be obedient, and what was the next? Anyway, being obedient, and I might be safe, and I did a pretty good job with that. Somehow my folks knew that I was a little bit different. I liked learning, and even I skipped 2nd grade. That's a feat that doesn't happen very often, but I had paid attention to my older brother and sister with the flashcards, the math flashcards.
Yeah.
3 + 2 = 5.
Right. 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 Right.
And I paid attention.
I
By the time I started 1st grade, I knew some of their flashcards better than they did. And that led me right to skip grade. But I have just realized in the last couple of years that I may still be wearing that cloak of being invisible.
mm,
And um And so taking baby steps to be courageous and build my confidence and build my loving of myself is making a big difference. Yeah.
Good. I was going to talk more about that and talk more about your your upbringing too. But before we get there, you speak of in your bio that you you want to help singles. How did you put it? And I quote: "Sparkle without torturing their friends and family." See, I did a little research on you, Sharon. So you said that you wanted to sparkle without torturing your friends and family. Talk about that for a second.
Well, the torturing part is just kind of a fun way of saying it, but it grabs attention, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And the training that I've been doing the last 3-4 years, I've had several people mention that I sparkle. Now, I've really made an effort over the years to be spiritually obedient and pure. I don't go to R-rated movies, but I think once or twice. Officer and a Gentleman is one that I purposely decided to go see because I'd heard so much raving about it.
An
But that,
officer and a gentleman.
yeah, Officer and a Gentleman. Um, I I
Okay.
don't. I guess I feel like I'm keeping my mind clean of lots of negativity, trauma, um, all kinds of fearful kind of things. And I think that's given me a sparkle.
Mm.
But I also, the first thing I learned after retiring, I started coaching school. And the first thing they taught us, Mark, was how to write our essence statement.
How to
Essence,
do what?
how to write our essence statement. Now I call it spark,
Okay.
soul, DNA, GPS.
Okay. Okay.
It's what's inside. And nobody teaches us how to know ourselves on the inside. You know, it
Yes.
teaches
Yes.
how to compare to each other. You know, do you have the right clothes or the right shoes or the right haircut, you know, and all that. We're all supposed to be one, you know, um, whatever, mass public, all in one definition. But what's inside is like our fingerprint, it's unique. There's nobody like us.
Right.
So here's mine,
Right.
Mark. In fact, when we finished our essence statement that weekend, and they had us standing in a circle and reading it to each other, and people were kind of getting a little bit choked up. And when it came to be my time, I choked up too.
Uh, uh,
Nobody has ever asked me to define my soul before. That's what it felt like. So I am precious jewel of wisdom. I am colorful collaborator, motivator, and learner. I am tranquil, authentic, and pure inspirer. I light fires.
wow.
Everybody
Wow.
to know who they are on the inside.
Mm, mm,
And the difference that made for me was
mm.
it took me 3-4 months, but I remember kind of feeling like I was bouncing off the wall because how do I know if I'm productive in retirement? There's no bosses anymore, you know, and all that. And I had made a wall hanging and I used to hang it behind my office here. And one day I had to come over and read it 3 times. And I gradually realized when I lived from that, that includes my values and what's important to me, every day feels right. What a marvelous feeling. I felt like I was living from my core, from my true self. It was like authenticity on steroids, I guess, because
Mm.
when I live from what matters to me, there's no more question about whether um, whether I'm doing the right thing. Now I do often listen before I get out of bed to what might be stirring in my spirit for what I should do today. And I often get little tidbits of phrases or whatever. I think the fresh courage that I have, the title of my book, might have come while I was listening. You know, there's often a voice that talks to us when we're out on vacation. You know, we're watching a campfire burning, or we're watching the ocean, and there's just you and nature. And messages will come to us, and it'll either scare us, or maybe we'd say, "Oh, I wish." And yeah, it's often I make these little art blocks, and one of them that I made what says, "You'll know the next step once you take the first step." Well, that's the problem with these little voices that scare us, is that we don't have the courage to take the first step, and we can't see where it will lead us to. So anyway.
Yes, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And yeah, I'm gonna leave it like that. uh, how do you teach people to know themselves?
Well, that is my signature system. And the first thing, and everybody can do this even today, is make a list of 20 things you love to do.
Make a list of 20 things. Okay.
You love to do. So when I go out on my walks, I love to take biscuits with me and feed them to the dogs. The dogs love me. I get my kisses that way.
Okay.
Now this isn't me doing, but I love the smell of fresh mown grass. You know, I'm not usually mowing the grass, but that's one of the things I love. Is kind of a weird example. But I love to bake. I love to be creative with my little art blocks. And let's see, what else? I love to encourage and inspire people. So that 20 list, and actually, if we did 2 or 3 of those things we love to do every day, we'd be much closer to our joy. You know, I'm still needing more joy in my life, I have to admit. But I bet the ocean is just about a mile away from me here, and I don't spend near enough time there to be admiring the beauty. I'm blessed to live in the community I do, but there's mountains, and there's waters, and there's ferries and seals and not eagle. Well, I don't see eagles here. I can see them, but the seagulls.
Seagulls. Okay.
I was gonna, yeah. Seahawks. Obviously, the Seahawks are here too.
Okay. All right. Yeah. You're right.
I was mixing up those words.
Yeah.
But the whole being out in nature, I'm pretty good about taking a daily walk, and I not only look for the dogs to feed them biscuits, but I whistle at the crows and the squirrels, because that makes them go faster. And at the desk, there's lots of bunny rabbits I can see around the area. So being out in nature is very healing. And in fact, Japanese, they have some kind of term about spending time in the forest time, that they respect that is a healing process too. And I could do that about a mile away too.
Nice.
So I think I covered that. Maybe I got lost on the trip.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Okay.
Nothing wrong with that. Okay. So you talked about your upbringing shortly, but I want you to go deeper into that, because it does coincide with how you look at relationships, correct?
Yeah.
So share with us what you've had to endure growing up.
Well, my dad was sexually abusive to my older sister. And we had to see a lot of that kind of happening when we were out swimming every day in the hot weather. We'd go to the swimming canal, or the canal where we swam. And my sister eventually had a baby by my dad. I didn't know that for sure until I was probably late 20s. And I finally got brave enough to feel like I could handle the truth about that. And somehow it came to mind how I had snuck a look into her journal, diary, I guess they called it then, and where she said she wondered how dad would handle it and what baby it would be and whatever. I never did. My brother tried to find the baby that she had. It was a boy, and but they didn't connect. But he said at the time he started to understand what it was like to be a girl, a woman in our family. And we grew up on a farm, so I was encouraged to eat up, because you got to go out and stack hay, and you got to milk cows and gather the eggs and all that.
Sure.
But I must have said 1,000 times, Mark, thank heavens he keeps his hands off me. And I did have to masturbate him a few times. But that was the extent of him and me. And I never did have a close relationship with him. When I was going through my master's program, I got the courage to ask, what was the distance between us? Why weren't we close? And by that time, he was a carpenter all his life. And I said, well, maybe at the time, I think I was making a little bit more than him. And could that be the distance, or, it was Thanksgiving weekend. And I remember listing off, could it be this or this or this? And he just didn't know. But I never did want him to walk me down the aisle, to get married. But
Sure.
when I was late 30s, I did buy a wedding dress, and it was my Expect a Miracle plan. And I still have that dress, but I think I need to lose another 20 pounds to get into it. Since I'm living to 100, I might get a chance to do that still.
Oh, wow. So you never had an opportunity to mend your relationship with your father?
No. And the other thing about that is that I never felt any desire or need or whatever to appreciate my body or my beauty or whatever. Every now and then I'd grumble to myself about how much work it was to be pretty.
Yeah.
All guys have to do is shave,
Is that it? I don't know, Sharon. I don't know.
So I don't understand the women that expose so much of their body to win approval or worthiness or whatever, but that probably added to my feeling invisible.
Okay. So it would be safe to say that you are in a comfortable place right now?
Yeah, I'm doing so much work on my business and trying to be I'm mostly doing podcasts. And I enjoy that. But and I don't waste much time dating. And that's not important, but I have noticed a guy sitting behind me in church here recently that seems to look piercing eyes at me, and I thought, well, maybe I should at least find out what his name is. But I'm an introvert. I think you said you were an introvert too, right?
I have introvert moments,
Hmm.
but I like to call myself an extroverted introvert.
Hmm.
I have moments where I like to be out, and then I have moments where I don't like to be out. So
I think there's a new term called ambient. Have you heard that term?
no,
It's kind of what's in the middle of introvert and extrovert.
yeah, that's me, I guess. Like I said, I
Well,
have my moments, man. You know.
yeah, I had a meetup group here I started, and one of the guys in there kind of challenged me on being an introvert. He says, I think so I think it's when certain topics, subjects, I'm all engaged, but like I'm not a small talker. Let's get something said, or just,
Yeah.
talking about the weather only lasts about 2 minutes.
Right. So let's get down to the meat of it, huh?
Yeah.
All right. uh, let's talk about loneliness in retirement. I, as I grew older, I began to realize that that is truly a thing. That you find yourself alone a lot more than when you were younger. And I think for me, Sharon, I did it by choice because I couldn't relate to what a lot of people were doing and a lot about how they thought. I couldn't relate to a lot of it. So I just kept everybody from an arm's distance. It's like, stay here. You're cool over there. Don't come too close because I don't want to get, what you got going on. I mean, just stay there, you know. But based on your experience of working with single retirees, how real is that for you to deal with loneliness in retirement?
Well, I think I said at the beginning, the fact that you no longer have colleagues, you no longer have your favorite people to go to lunch with, you're not working with a team of people and accomplishing solving problems or helping customers or whatever. And you don't have kids at home anymore, like empty nesters
Empty
or
nesters.
widows.
Yeah.
Widows is a big part of the loneliness.
Mm-hmm.
um and the other thing, this is a little bit of a side thing, but I heard at Boeing that a lot of people don't retire because they know they'll be dead in 3 years.
Mm.
That hurt my heart because
Mm-hmm.
but it took me a long time to realize that it may take 3 years for a couch potato to die. And if they don't have hobbies and friends and dreams, and all they're doing is sitting on the couch watching TV or Netflix or whatever,
Yeah.
then that impacts your health, your longevity, your social connections are vital to making it through. Now, I've never, well, our parents, there was a lot of probably, oh, I earned this. Now it's just time to relax. And um, keeping yourself learning and growing and curious is vital to being still engaged in life.
Mm.
I don't feel like I've ever experienced ageism. I've had the luck, fortune of looking younger. I'm 76, and most people think I'm about 15 years younger. So that has not been a struggle for me like it is for a lot of people. But a lot of the struggle starts in your head as to whether you deserve being ignored, or looked over or whatever.
Mm.
I want to tell a story that back in, I worked for General Telephone, GTE, for 19 years. And I
Where?
was, yeah, I had a opportunity to meet with the head guy at our location in Everett, Washington.
Sharon,
And
where did you work at?
well, it's GTE, the phone
G-
company. Do you
okay.
ever know?
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And I don't know how I was picked to be in this group of about 15 people that met one-on-one with the top guy there.
Okay.
And we were all expected to ask him questions. And it dawned on me halfway through that I wonder if he has any questions for us. He's not the only one with the expertise. We might be close to some problems he don't even know about. And I never got the courage to speak up. And it's kind of what you were saying at the beginning about keeping to yourself or not.
Yeah.
One of the first things I remember doing after one of my summer classes, I think it was, I'd come back from some training, and I imagine kicking the back of my chair and saying, "Come on, Sharon, speak up. There's other people that are too afraid to speak up, so you can speak for them to get the ball rolling, whatever." But I mentally imagine kicking the back of my chair to say, put something out there. Something needs to be said, and it may have to be you. And that helped me start being more courageous. You can relate to that, huh?
Yeah. 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 You know, and as you know, I'll be 55 in about a week, 8 days. uh yeah, yeah, 55. Yay. But I'm learning to stay active, I guess. As I get older, I'm learning that, I have to at least stay active, uh, do some things to keep your mind going. Because when I was working, I knew people who retired and died before they even received their first check. They had, health issues, whatever, but they also had, well, some had very sedentary lifestyles,
Yeah.
right? Uh, they didn't engage in doing anything. They were just, like you said, you used the phrase couch potatoes. They were pretty much couch potatoes in a certain way. And when they retired, we gave them the send off, shake hands, hugs, and whatever. And maybe a month later, we'll be in roll call. And yeah, by the way, Sergeant such and such, she passed today. It's like, what? You know, it's it's just so unfortunate that people can be here with you 1 minute, and then the next minute, boom, it's like they're gone. But where I'm trying to get at, it's you have to take care of your physical health and your mental health.
Mhm.
Emphasis on physical and mental,
Right.
because if you don't, you can find yourself like my ex coworkers, right? You're here today, you retire, 28 days later, we're talking about you in an obituary. Like, what the hell? So, have you ever experienced that?
No, but I did hear a story at Boeing, pretty similar to that. I think they worked into past, seems like maybe about 78, and it was a lady, and she was just always at Boeing. She didn't have a life outside of Boeing. She didn't have friends. But that same thing happens when you're in a highly competitive job, or that you put in 80 to 100 hours every
Yeah,
week.
yeah,
You don't have a life outside of work,
yes, you
because
do.
that's the limit. In fact, I a couple times came across beds in Boeing in the
Yeah,
remote places. But what I do with with my book, I made it a do-it-yourself way to find your own purpose. I ask a lot of questions about like, what do you love to do? And I also give a lot of resources in here about things you might check out, you know. But I also tell stories from the podcast that I did I made over 50 episodes. And I wanted to help people think about how to think outside the box. And
Yeah.
this one lady, one of my favorite guests was a lady that was here in the Seattle area, and she knew she needed to expand her heart. So for 2 years, she planned on doing community service projects around the world. There's organizations that help place oftentimes is young people out of college. But here she's like 55, 57 years old. And but some charge a lot and some charge hardly anything, but she kind of gauged which one she'd get the most help from. But she wound up feeding baby lions, working on a baboon sanctuary, singing in English to Chinese college students so they can practice their English, you know. And I think the song they sang that really touched everybody's heart was Imagine's song by the Beatles. And once she sang it, then if they're up to them to respond. And so, okay, who's going to sing the song? And a gentleman near the back of the room, he stood up and sang the song for everybody else. But I wanted to help people. I think, Mark, we forget our dreams. We forget what we wanted to do, way back in our early 20s. And we forget, here's one of my little blocks. Have you forgotten who you are? The line from the Lion King, you know?
Yes.
You're still that educated person. You're still that person that has to have all these job experiences and colleagues that you've worked with. You still have those, people that you book club or golfing or whatever your hobbies are. That's not gone. And we forget that since we are missing a paycheck, we're also missing all this other that brought us to this moment in time. So I help people remember who they are.
Nice.
Another thing we use for purpose is values. I actually did a college paper on values, and my instructor says for all the 30 years I've been teaching, nobody's ever used that as a topic. But and we don't talk about it in everyday conversation. It may come up when we're watching the news and a story comes on and we say, do something about it, fix that, you know? Well, if it's hitting you as something needs to be done, then you might be the one that needs to take that first step. And if it's up to me, if it is to be, it's up to me.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. You talked about your podcast. What's the name of your podcast?
Well, the first one was audio only, and it's on only the Spreaker format platform, and it was called Maximize Retirement. Now, it had nothing to do with money. I'm always talking about other people's experiences and how can I learn from what you did, you know. But one of the last, the second where I was doing audio and video, it was on Transformational Talk Radio, a group here nearby that I did. And it's on several platforms, but my whole series of videos were on their platform. I do have a number of them on my YouTube that are available for people to subscribe to and like and watch. One of the ladies was somebody who walked the El Camino in Spain. That's like a 500-mile journey. Let's see, another guy, he since passed on, but his role in his job had something to do with city planning. And so in retirement, he looked around town and said, what needs to be improved on? And there's a criteria that's been established by, I think, the World Health Organization of what makes a livable city. When you get older and are walking slower, you need the traffic lights to give you more time to get across the street. And he helped organize improving that. He made a list of office buildings that had elevators in them, where people could, meet their lawyer on the 10th floor or something. But I think he also did a list of where the public restrooms were, all kinds of things that make your city better. And that's just a couple examples of how we could be observant about where things need and could be better. Every now and then when I was driving to work the last couple of years, I saw highway improvements. Oh, look, they added that. Yeah, that's improvement. How come we didn't know that we needed that,
Yeah. I forgot to ask you this question, but so I'll ask you now. How did you find the mental fortitude to deal with all the trauma that you went through?
Well, that was guided by a lot through my college classes. I know one of the first things when I had to take to class 2 or 3 page paper on my most significant life events. And by that time, I knew if I didn't include the sexual abuse, I would be denying it, in denial. If I did say something about it, what do I say? Because I hadn't dealt with it. So one of the first events with one of my instructors, and I believe that was on my master's level, that I had to tell my instructor I was worth their investment in me. They had given me 2 counseling sessions for free, but I first had to tell them I was worth it. That was tough to do.
Nice.
So at each class seemed to get better and better as to kind of role playing with somebody that represented my dad or whatever. But it was I can remember a couple of times where going to church, and I thought, if anybody comes up behind me and says boo, I would wind up on the floor. I just I was that fragile. And I learned to maybe give people hugs because I needed hugs.
Sure. Yeah.
In fact,
I guess that your answer leads me to ask this question. You're doing a lot of work to help others in becoming strong and resilient. What do you do personally to become strong and resilient?
Well, the weird thing about resilient is that when I left Seattle, my GTE transferred me down to Tampa, Florida, way across the country.
Yeah.
As we were, friends had gotten together to say goodbye to me. My best friend said she didn't know anybody as resilient as me. You see, I'm still not sure what she saw in me, other than maybe her noticing I was pretty good about picking myself up and moving on. I don't know how much she knew my story then, but somehow she saw me as resilient. So I would call that as maybe coming along naturally. I had a natural inclination for that. But when I started doing podcasts, I did get an opportunity to speak English to a group of students that were about 40 years old in Brazil. And they said, you can pick any topic you want. So for 45 minutes, I talked to them about courage to be, courage to have, and courage to do. And that evolved into becoming the Queen of Courage on Instagram. And I have made, I think, about 200 of short little videos challenge you to be courageous this week.
Nice.
And
Nice.
I think the biggest thing that we need courage, Mark, is to express our uniqueness, that fingerprint that is so unique on the inside of us. Our unique gifts we don't want to die with the song still inside of us.
Yes. Yes. And story, because we all have a story, right? And it's our job to get our story out there because it could help somebody.
Yeah.
This is why you and I do the things that we do, because we have a story.
And I remember several times as thinking that this is going to be hard to do, but I did it for the people coming behind me. For their sake, I was ready and willing to face the tough music and move forward.
Yeah. Yeah. How's your faith, Sharon?
My faith has been pretty strong. And you know, the verse that most important to me is nothing is impossible. Yeah. But the other thing that moved me, and I call it now mental strength, but it goes along with courage, is that when I got into a place that finding friends in Tampa, Florida, where I was transferred to, is becoming rough and challenging and whatever. And so somehow I think I got out a concordance and looked for the word courage. And lo and behold, in Joshua chapter 1 and 2, there's several verses that talk about do not be afraid, be of good courage, be of great courage, do not be afraid because God is always with you. And I started stomping my foot and saying, I refuse to live my life based on fear. And that has made a heck of a lot of difference. I think that also contributes to my young appearance.
Your youthful look.
Yeah, my next younger sister, she's almost died a few times this last year, and
oh, geez,
I tried to encourage her to change her behavior and blah 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 until you walked in my shoes. I don't want to walk in your shoes. She won't listen to me, so
it is what it is. Right. Okay, stay over there. Stay over there. We're good. You know, it's like you can only talk to people so many times. Afterwards, do what Jesus did. Just, dust the dirt off the shoes and just keep it moving. Hey.
I can remember stacking hay and being amazed at that whole principle. What do you believe? If you believe that you're in charge of your health, I have never been in the hospital. I've never had cancer, never had diabetes. I did have cataract surgery, but that wasn't overnight. But if you believe you're in charge of your health, then you take care of yourself and you listen to your body and figure out how can I give it something natural that isn't from the doctor's office, because they're just practicing.
Yeah, right. We tend to overlook that word, don't we? Practicing. So what's next for you in your journey, Sharon?
Well, I would like to be a life enrichment speaker on cruise ships. I might find some boomers there. Because they're only about 50% of the boomers are on social media. And I would get to travel that way. Now, they don't pay you to be a speaker unless you're Hollywood types, I guess. But I do get free room and board on a cruise ship. And I figure that
That's all you need.
I could be
Come
presenting
on.
to people, some of the people on the ship that I could do coaching with, that could put some fill my pockets a little bit.
It's all right. Well,
And I'm going to be on a cruise in September. It's going to be, I'm teaching people how to make money speaking, but I'm all ears.
all right. All right. Well, shit, you might have to help me teach me how to make some money speaking.
I might be able to do that.
All right. How can people reach you, Sharon?
Well, I am pretty active on my Facebook page, Sharon Rolph, ROLPH. I do have a website called SharonRolph.com. And I've just put up 5 things on a new platform called The Great Discovery. And I have my book there. I have What Makes Your Heart Sing core ebook that's there. And a free class called How to Make a Marvelous Transition into retirement. And I have another one called How to Make a Marvelous Transition into Volunteering. Volunteering is the easiest, fastest way to help you be connected and learning and active and all that. And it was a marvelous, by the time I got the course done, I just had such a strong feeling that it would change people's lives, because volunteering is that kicks in that whole reciprocity, that when I do good for others, I also get blessed at the same time.
Indeed. Indeed. Indeed.
I'm on Instagram with Queen of Courage, and I'm on LinkedIn. And I'm sensing the banner of being, an expert influencer coming soon.
All right. All right. Well, I'll be happy to see when that happens.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
cool. Well, Miss Sharon, it has been a great privilege to have this conversation with you. I have fun, and I hope that you did too.
Yes. This is easy. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's one thing about the shows that I have. I try to make it easy and smooth, So I'm glad that you enjoyed it. So
yes, thank you.
All right. If you don't have anything else, I will sign us out. And thank you guys for tuning in to the show. My name is Mark Ross, and this has been another episode of the Speak Your Truth with Mark Ross. Remember, self-care is important, so please make sure that your mental and physical health become a priority in your life every day. First, with that being said, I'm out. You guys have a good one. Take care. Bye, Sharon.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Have a good